that often as the joy and gift of travel, that travel kind of uproots us and takes us and shows us something new. And certainly the choir trip does all of that. It takes our choristers up out of the ordinary and places them into extraordinarily new places and experiences. This year, the choristers traveled to Bristol Cathedral in England, had a weekend there, and then we made our way down to St. Paul's Cathedral in London for a week of residency. And that is certainly a broadening experience for anybody, just going. Spending a week in those two great cities, walking to and fro from the hotel to the cathedral in London, seeing all of the vitality and breadth of a modern, urban Mecca, if you will. But the choir trip does more than just that. It's more than just a trip that anybody could take. Because it does a couple of things that are extraordinarily unique. First of all, it places our choristers, in this case, in the broad tradition of our Anglican heritage. I'll still remember those trips of mine. A trip I spent in mission work in Panama when I was in seminary. A year of mission work that I took and spent within the Maori community of Aotearoa. And going into these places and seeing not just another world, but seeing part of my world there. And suddenly what happens is my world, the ordinary of St. Christopher's in Kailua, Oahu, or my world of Christchurch, Grosse Pointe, is infinitely larger. Because my world is part of that world. And so the choristers have this opportunity to go and do what they ordinarily do. They sing evensong. They make beautiful music within this kind of odd tradition of the Episcopal Church, wearing cassocks and surplices, following a cross and torches, right? They do all these things every Sunday, and then they're doing it in this broad and expansive place of St. Paul's Cathedral, and to realize that their place is there. It's part of that experience. And so what I've found personally, and I hope that our choristers will have the opportunity to experience or to come to reflect upon, is that our world, our place within it individually, is much bigger than just the little spot that we inhabit. It's a profound experience of identity, right? That my place within this world is not limited to the roots that I have in the little, 6 square feet that I occupy. But rather, the place of my place in this world is part of this much broader, expansive tradition, identity, and community. Now, we can't get that if we only see in the 6 feet that we inhabit, or the however many square feet of Christchurch, right? So these experiences kind of broaden our understanding of ourselves. And it's different than just traveling, right? Because they're not just traveling, they're going to their cousin's house. They're going to their grandparents' house and seeing who they are, who their family is, what their heritage is. So that's one of the really great gifts of the choir trip. Another thing that I think is profound about traveling as a Christian community together, traveling in community with one another, that moves us beyond the ordinariness of travel, is this shaping of worldview, right? When we travel, we experience new things, right? That shapes our worldview. It helps us to expand our understanding of the world. But when you travel with others, particularly when you travel within a Christian community, you have this opportunity to see the world from a particular vantage point, right? To hear the Christian influence and perspective of priests, of lay people, of organ and choir directors, of fellow clergy, right? All these people that you're experiencing in these places that help you see the world richly from the Christian vantage point. And so we're not just expanding our worldview, we're expanding our Christian worldview, helping us to see the world as God sees it more clearly and more beautifully. And that can't be done easily alone, right? It's hard for families to even do that as a family. But when you put a community, in this case, a community of choristers, a community of young people, onto a bus together, surrounded by a Christian community, to see and experience the world around them in a unique way. And that, too, is part of the choir trip experience for our choristers. Now, you might be saying, is all of that limited to choristers? And the answer, of course, is no. The first expansion would be all of the participants, all of the supporters who go, right? This year we had just about a dozen supporters with us, accompanying us on this journey, who get that same experience, right? Well, maybe not quite the same experience. They're not processing and singing the way the choristers are, but they are walking into St. Paul's and realizing they have a place within it. Not just as travelers, not just as tourists coming to gawk and to look, but as fellow worshipers, cousins and distant relatives of this Christian community in London, in Bristol, or wherever we may be. And so it's not just limited to the choristers. It's a wonderful opportunity for the supporters. And I will put a little plug in for the value of corporate travel as a community in other ways. Many Christian communities like ours will do pilgrimages for adults to the Holy Land, to ancient Greece, to follow the wanderings of Paul. Others will make their way to Iona and to Scotland and to some of the ancient sites within the UK. But traveling together to experience the world together with intentionality as Christians is a rich experience that's open not just to our choristers. Similarly, it's one of the things we would love to see expanding to all of our youth, to reintroduce the importance of mission work, of travel, of pilgrimage for all of our youth, to experience what our choristers are fortunate to experience on a near annual basis. Things like the National Acolyte Festival. That might think like, what? There actually exists such a thing? Yes. Acolytes gather every year at St. Paul's Cathedral. I'll never forget the first time I took a similar trip with acolytes from Bethesda by the Sea in Palm Beach to the National Cathedral. Right? When they're walking down with their cross, with processing in as part of that grand procession, to see, wait a second, we're part of this? This is part of our heritage, right? That's all part of giving our kids an identity, a personal identity, but also an identity within Christ, an identity within the church. So all of those opportunities that our choristers experience are also available to us as supporters and to others as we make those things available to them. I'll say one last thing that I'm probably over time. I apologize. Always. One last thing about, I think I was originally given 10 minutes of time, so I might still be under time. The last thing about the choir trip that and again, travel together, that is so profound is it deepens relationship in a really unique way. To spend a week together informally, right? Relationship isn't built at a networking event, right? That's just an introduction, right? And coffee hour on Sunday is a bit like that. We rub elbows, we say hello to one another, we get a little bit of introduction. This is this is what I do, this is my spouse, this is my child, we have 2 of them, right? We get all of that. But relationship is built in the soft spaces of time, where we can kind of sidle up and have just coffee together without any agenda, with soft time to expand into life together. Well, that's what the choir trip allows us, right? We're together for 2 weeks, and we're going to see one another right after breakfast, on the bus, just before dinner, and our relationships deepen. We become reliant upon one another. Hey, do you know when the service begins? I'm getting a cab. You want to join me? All of those kind of informal places that transform and really kind of spark and deepen relationship, both between the choristers themselves, between choristers and supporters and professional singers, but also among the supporters individually. And so the choir trip, it sounds like it's just about the choir singing, and that is certainly a profound part of the experience for the choristers. But there is so much more going on that is profoundly valuable for our community as a whole, and for the young girls and young boys who make that trek. So I'm always grateful for the broad support of the community that makes that possible for our choristers. I hope in the coming years we get more opportunities for other youth and others of us who aren't able to make the choir trip, to find other ways to travel and deepen both our faith, but also our bonds of affection and grace with one another, as a choir trip provides to our choristers and singers. So thank you for that support and that opportunity for our kids. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah.
Exactly. The funny part is, yes, you took longer than we had planned. But actually, the value of the choir trip is the most important thing I would love everybody to leave this room with. It's not just a musical experience, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the fact that Drew and I have had conversations over the last now 11 years, I imagine, about what the value of the trip is, not just for the choristers, but for the community of the choir, the community of Christ Church, the community of companions and parents and supporters. That's actually the most important aspect of it, which is frankly why we do it. If it was just a performance tour, we probably wouldn't go to England as often as we do. We just sing all over wherever we wanted to and just drop into a city and do a concert. But that's not really what we're about. This church is a ministry. It's not a concert choir. Yes, this choir sings concerts, but our bread and butter is leading ministry and leading worship. And that is actually why I choose to take the choir to England most frequently, is because that translates over there so nicely into the cathedral life, daily evensong, Sunday worship, and things like that. So actually, you can take as long as you want if you continue to talk about how great they are. To have a rector, and knowing my colleagues in the business, to have a rector who is as supportive of our choir trips as Drew is actually something that's not as experienced as often as I'd like. So, and I'm not just saying that because you're next to me, but it's really quite true. So, and actually, he talked a little bit about the things I was going to have him talk about later, so we can get that time back as we go. But one of the things that I'd like to talk about today is just a little bit of the experience, why it's value for the musical side and the kind of the practical side of the value for the choristers and the professional singers and the choirs as a whole. And this travel here at Christ Church has been a thing. Those of you that have been in this room for many decades will know that choir travel is something that Christ Church is very proud of, and something that a tradition that has sustained for quite a long time. In fact, when I arrived in 2007, I think the second or third question I received on the first Sunday I played here was, when is the choir traveling abroad? So I said, well, let me hear what they sound like first, and then we might talk about that. And but there was a lot of energy around that. And as far as I can tell, the first trip that Christ Church took was in 1967 to England, which is before Fred DeHaven even. So Edgar Billups was the music director here at the time. So hard to believe that that we've been traveling for that long. And I think Fred DeHaven, though, who started in 1975, really kind of brought the choir travel regularity to the experience, because as far as I can tell, again, a lot of my information about the history of choir travel and the choir in general is attributed to Bill Gard. Those of you that knew Bill Gard wrote a wonderful history of the Christchurch Choir for Fred's retirement in 2007, and then handed it to me when I arrived, and I'm like, this is amazing, a timeline of everything that's happened. And Bill, up until the time when he sang with me at the first alumni evensong, had sung with every single choir director at Christchurch Grosse Pointe, all the way back to 1930, if you can believe it. So amazing, yeah, all 8 of us. So quite, and the other one was Roger Fitch. He also sang with everybody. So from that history, I found that Christchurch has traveled to England, Scotland, Wales, Italy, France, Scandinavia, Germany, Spain, Austria, Australia, and New Zealand. And the chorale, or the Fred de Haven chorale, or the combination of the two, Spain, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Italy, and many others. So obviously a rich history of travel abroad, which I am, those of you that know me personally will know that I was exceedingly happy to inherit. Those of you that know Meredith and I, we have plans. And most of them involve an airplane. We love travel, and I love traveling with choirs. I love traveling with my family, but yeah, I find it slightly ironic, and I've shared this with some of you. I have actually never been outside of this country without a choir, if you can believe it. And I have been to Uruguay. So traveling with the Men's Glee Club at Michigan, or traveling with Christchurch when I was the assistant organist, or traveling now with the main choir. It's something that I'm taking good notes for retirement, so I can go back to some of these places, but it's certainly something I'm looking forward to. But I think what Drew was saying about community and living in community is really the principal reason that I think choir travel is successful and also enriching. We eat together, we rehearse together, we perform together, we have fun together. And it's not just the kids having fun with each other, but it is all of the community having fun together. So we sing and perform frequently. You hear us every Sunday. We rehearse during the week with the kids, et cetera, et cetera. But we don't live in community together like a lot of the places that I sing in England do. The cathedral choir at St. Paul's sings every single day together during the program year. And that is a remarkable difference. They sing 6 times as many services as we do in the week. It's just kind of hard to believe when you think about it, because we do, I'm often told, like, wow, the choir is very, very involved here. Yes, it is. But let's compare it for a moment to an English cathedral where they sing every single Sunday and every single day. So I think one of the actual the blessings of traveling as we do is that at the end of the day, you'll see a professional singer playing 5 crowns with a chorister. And you'll see a companion that is having a glass of wine with one of our professional singers. And we're getting to know each other through that living together in community. And I think some of our companions, I mean, I think I counted one day on my watch, it said I walked 21,000 steps, which is a lot for those of you that are tracking steps. I hope you understand. It's 11 miles. And one of our companions said to me, as we got back to the hotel, "Ready for a drink?" And I was like, no, I am ready to go to bed. But it's impressive the amount of energy that is built up on these trips. So this past year's trip, as Drew mentioned, we went to Bristol and we went to London, the 2 biggest cities in England. Bristol is wonderful. I'm going to show you the slideshow in just a moment. Bristol is wonderful for lots of things, but one of it is the cathedral is not commensurate with the size of the city. And what I mean by that is the cathedral is relatively intimate and small, where the entire town of Bristol is this kind of vast harbor town with lots of activity. It also coincided with the Harbor Music Festival, which was both wonderful and terrifying. As a person running a trip for kids, there was lots to do, especially in the evening. So there was a lot of conversations about what do we do when the lights go out and things like that. But the cathedral there is a little bit off of the main area, and it has a sense of intimacy that is truly special, which is a great precursor to what we were going to experience the next week in London, which went to the largest cathedral in England and one of the largest in the world, St. Paul's. And so to have a kind of ice-breaking experience with our service worship and leading that in a smaller place was a blessing for us. And the organ had been out for the last 3 years, and so the entire choir area, chancel area of the cathedral had been under scaffolding until the week before we arrived. And so all that scaffolding came out. Sadly for Jackson, the organ was not yet ready, so we were stuck with an electronic organ, but it was actually wonderfully versatile and amazingly effective in that space. But to have kind of the first run at the renovated chancel at Bristol Cathedral was something that was truly special. And we got to eat at a place called Zaza Bazaar, which, as Jimmy is now raising his hand, it's very, very exciting. Something we visited in 2014 with the boys. So Zaza Bazaar, for those that have not been, has anybody been to Zaza Bazaar? Excellent, all choir travelers, yes? It is a world market of buffet. So when you walk in, you get a couple hours. You pay your way in, and you have stations of every world food with multiple chefs at each station making the authentic food from each world. So you have the American station with hot dogs and chicken nuggets. You walk right by that. You get to the Indian food where they're making curries in real time and making naan right there. You get to the Mexican place, they're making burritos and tacos and stuff. And the English, they're making roast and Sunday puddings and all that kind of stuff. Then you get to the Asian section where it's all Chinese food and Thai food. And so you basically eat your entire weight in food in one sitting, and then you go to the dessert section, which is about half the size of this room, I think, something like that, chocolate fountains and everything. So when I took the boys there in 2014, we were there, and I had to roll them out at the end of that trip. And then, of course, it became a thing. Every year we go to Zaza Bazaar. So that's one of the reasons we chose Bristol. You're welcome, Jimmy. That was just for you. So
Can I,
please.
yeah, we underestimate. There we go. We underestimate the value of tradition. Right? These experiences. It sounds it's humorous to us. It's playful to us, and it sounds that it's nothing more than an entertaining meal. But it becomes not only something that kids look forward to, but it also becomes a connection with the past, right? That, now a 20-some-odd-year-old is celebrating a 13-year-old, and they have a connection because of a shared action that they've done, a shared meal that they've had through time. And those things are part of what give us a heritage and an identity. They're true in our families, but they're equally true in our communities, right? And while our community at large is losing a shared heritage, I mean, it's pretty amazing that we still have a Little League parade, right, as something that Grosse Pointe does. That's part of being from Grosse Pointe. But most of those shared experiences as a broad community are being lost. And they're certainly under threat in the church. And so, everything from taking communion every Sunday to Zaza's Bazaar are part of creating a heritage and a community. And we can't lose sight of the importance of kind of shared historic practice as something that shapes us as a people, or shapes the choir as a choir.
That's the fourth time we went. And I think we have taken the same picture with the choir every time we've been there. So you'll see the most recent one, but it'll be interesting to see a young, small Jimmy Fitzgerald in 2014, who is now a chaperone of our choir trips and having gone to Zaza Bazaar for 11 years. So it's pretty special. So. One last story about Zaza, not to overestimate or overshare, but our tour manager, we've had the same tour managers since 2009 of our English trips. And by now, I've done enough trips with them where they kind of hand it over to me. They don't feel like they need to be on the ground with us the whole time. So he's like, "You've done this enough. It's yours, but I'll meet you at Zaza Bazaar." So from Bristol, we went to London, and London, I've been wanting to go back to St. Paul's. And what I mean by go back, in 2013, I took the men and girls choir to St. Paul's to sing a concert under the dome there in 2013. It was actually, we were already scheduled to sing in 6 cathedrals on that trip. It was a very, very kind of expansive trip. I was trying to get an idea of what it was like to travel over there with the choir, because it was my first English trip with the choir as the director. And I wanted to sing a concert at St. Paul's, and they said, "Well, unfortunately, the only day that's available is the 2 days before you arrive." And so I said, "Well, we're just going to add 4 days onto the trip. That's how it's going to work." So we got off the plane, took the bus, and sang a concert at St. Paul's. And I was nervous about it because it's a pretty large space and there's a lot of discerning ears in the community. And the organ scholar went upstairs and emailed me right after our concert and said, please come back and sing a week-long residency. And I was like, I needed that right now. That's really good. We're about to sing for 17 days in 6 cathedrals. That affirmation was really quite positive. But it took me 12 years to get them back to sing a full week, but we finally did it. It's hard. It's a hard building to schedule. We scheduled it 6 years ago. That's how long in advance you schedule these places. And it was a wonderful experience. So singing in the dome, if you've been to St. Paul's, who's been to St. Paul's Cathedral in London, you'll probably remember it's a large space and it's always loud. So the choir was singing in rehearsal, and I was like, I'm sure you sound great. I can't really hear you. And I would actually say to the organist there who played for us a couple times, I'm like, should I have them sing louder? He's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm like, oh, okay. Until Sunday morning. Sunday morning, we got an hour before our service where the cathedral was entirely ours. And that was an amazing experience, to have just an hour of complete silence in a place like that. Also special was after Evensong, the organist invited Jackson and myself up to listen to the state trumpets in the back, which they could hear across the street as the choir was gathering. So that was pretty cool too. So I want to show you a little bit of the thanks to Jimmy Fitzgerald and Colleen Fitzgerald for putting the video together, but a little bit of what we did during our trip this past summer. That's Bristol. You can see them all in their tennis shoes because we had to do a lot of walking. Special thanks to Jimmy Fitzgerald for putting that together. Hooray. Obviously, lots of highlights in there. London Eye was certainly one of them. You had to get a ticket for a flight on the Eye, and we were all going there, and they put us accidentally in 2 different pods, which was a little bit worrisome at the beginning, except you could watch the other one as it went around. So we got to take lots of pictures of the other ones as they were looking through the thing, which is quite entertaining. But I think our walking tour of along the Thames all the way down to Westminster Square, seeing the Abbey and seeing Parliament and the Tower and Big Ben, the Bell inside, and things like that were certainly highlights in London. And my favorite, actually, after a long day, usually the way a day works is we get up in the morning, have breakfast together, and then we do some sort of excursion. We come back and rest for a little while, and then we walk to Evensong, and then we have dinner. And then that's repeat pretty much every day. But we got to, where we were staying was across the Thames, and so every day to Evensong, we walked across the Millennium Bridge across to St. Paul's, which if you haven't done that, it's really quite special, except when it's raining. It rained one of the days, and so that was not special. But I think generally just having that kind of physical pilgrimage to worship was something that I really enjoyed. And I think as I kind of reflect back on kind of our experience as a musical organization, when you sing in England, they see a lot of choirs that come and go in the summer, and we get a lot of different experiences based on the clergy that are in town or the vergers that work there. But we had a really nice, and I'm going to just share what the verger said to us at St. Paul's, which I thought was actually very gratifying to me, and actually spoke to what I value most about the community. And they said that, sometimes you have to imagine St. Paul's is a busy place and it's in high demand, and so there are a lot of choirs that want to sing there of varying experience levels and success. And so they see lots of different things. The verger came up to us and said, "We see lots of choirs that are really good musical organizations, but they're just not always the easiest people to work with. And then we see lots of choirs who are really great people, but the musical quality, you have both." And I was like, congratulations, everyone. That's exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, so I was really gratified to hear that, because that's ultimately what I'm looking for, is most importantly, are we presenting Christ Church in the way that I feel most compelled to do, but also that we share that with the community around us. So I think that's something that's very special. Before I take some questions, or if anybody out in the audience that would like to talk about their experience, I just want to point you to 2027. 2027, we're going back to England. So we're going to sing a week at Lincoln Cathedral, and then we're going to sing a week at Westminster Abbey. You may have heard of that place. So Westminster Abbey is also a tricky place to get into because it's in high demand. But because of our time there in 2017, they actually reached out to us and said, "Would you come back?" Which I thought was and I said, "Wow, sure, I'll find a time." And so I think the dates, I have them in here. They are from July 24th to August 9th, 2007. So block those out. If you're planning your travel adventures now, save England to come with the choir. Because I think I'm speaking on behalf of our companions, and I hope I am, that it's an enriching experience for the companions as well. You get an insider track into the liturgical life and frankly, the tourist life of these big cities. And so I think that the way that the companions and supporters have become part of the fabric of the choir travel, I think is really, really important, and something I would love to enrich. And now, having just been to London in 2025, we have made a really excellent list of all the fun things we're going to do in 2027. And we've also, with Colleen's help, started making reservations already, because wow, do they reserve things in advance over there. Trying to have tea on a day's notice? No, not happening. But now we know where we're going to be there. So there's going to be lots of fun things to look forward to in 2027. Yes, Richard.
We traveled with the choir, and I was proud to be with them.
Thank you.
They did us proud, and it was a great experience to actually share it with them, but also to share Grosse Pointe and Christchurch with a lot of people in England. It was quite an experience. They did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you. Hearing the stories of Richard and Jill's experience in England long ago, and kind of re-traveling on some of the steps of that was special for, I think, many of us that got to hear that. Yeah, please.
One of the stories
I'd say, yeah.
But it brought back a lot of things to me too. It was quite an experience.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. That was actually special to hear that. I mean, it puts things into perspective. Certainly for the kids that see London is so built up now, and they don't have that perspective. So it's really wonderful to have somebody share that with them. Yeah. Anybody else back there that want to talk about anything? Yeah, Julie. Yeah, please. Few little experience with choir trips, I think.
I do. I never went on one, but when our daughter was 12, our oldest daughter, she went to Australia and New Zealand. And when she got off the bus in the parking lot over behind us, she looked at me and she said, "I'm going to live in Europe." She said, "I'm going to go to college there, and I am going to Europe." And so I knew what she meant. It was the culture. She wasn't in Europe. She was in Australia and New Zealand. But on that trip, Katie Wagner sat next to her on the plane. They sat together, and Carrie was a sixth grader, and Katie was a junior in high school. And they were like fast friends through the whole trip, which was really amazing. And so anyway, and then her sister Blair also went on the trip. One of the trips, she had a 3-day notice, but everybody around her pulled together very quickly, and we got her on the plane. And then when Carrie was with a big-time accounting firm, she took a week off because she was living in Brussels, Belgium at that time. So she and I figured out a way that she was going to live in Europe, and she has been on the eternal choir trip for 16 years.
Yeah.
She just, it just meant so much to her, and
Yeah.
it meant a lot to me, knowing that, she was with other parents.
Mm.
And she would come back and she'd be good friends with, the adults that
Yeah.
were in church because of all the experiences
Sure.
that Drew was talking about. But both daughters really had a lot, and some parents actually came up and thanked me, which was really nice, that, when they were chaperones. And so there's one, and I can't think of the name of it, but I know you'll know what it is, Scott. It's a thing in the square, and it's like a big deal, and you have to, it's a German thing, and it's a performance.
Oh,
It's got a long name.
the Passion Play in Oberammergau.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Blair was at
Some of you know that.
some conference or something, and they were talking about Europe, and somebody mentioned, oh, da-da-da-da-da, this, whatever Karen said. And, yeah, and then he said to her, have you ever seen that? You should really see that. Have you ever seen it? And Blair said, yes. And then she paused, and then she said, twice.
Yeah.
He said, well, how did you get to see it twice? So, I mean, these experiences will carry throughout
Yeah. Thank you,
their whole
Julie.
life,
Indeed.
for sure.
I would love to see some statistics. We do have, I know several kids who want to go to college over there and end up going to college over there, and as in Carrie's case, stayed, just went over there and decided to live. I think, just the simple thing of teaching them to walk with their phones away in London, because, if you've been to London recently, you'll know bikes rule London. I think the pandemic really enhanced that. And it's not just like, oh, a biker's going by. It's like, it is rush hour traffic at every moment for bikes. And so they will ride their bike by you and take the phone right out of your hand. It's really quite remarkable. So to teach these kids, like, we want to enjoy ourselves, but we also have to be conscious of things like this and just be mindful. That kind of, you can't have your phone in your hand just like walking around like, hey, I'm going to Snapchat my friends. You have to be really sensitive to that kind of stuff. There's a time and place for that. And we can do that in real time. It's quite fun. And of course, the kids don't know that I have 5 chaperones in every corner of the group as we walk to look out for these kinds of things. But we are always mindful of safety and things like that. But it's just a great opportunity to teach these young people how to experience the outside of the community of Grosse Pointe, and even in Michigan, Southeast Michigan. Yeah. Yes, Lynn.
When I was in the choir 30-some years ago, Fred did not believe in taking girls to England. Only boys were allowed to go and sing in England. So we went to Italy and Scandinavia, which I don't begrudge.
Well, I know we went in '99. We did 3 weeks in England. It's quite a journey. Because I went with him. Yeah, I think he softened as he
Yeah,
aged.
I think so, but I looked at him and said, oh, I wish I'd been able to go on this trip.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Remember, the girls introduced to England in 1991. That was the first time a girls' choir sang in a cathedral service. In 1991, you can believe it. So, mercifully, most cathedrals, including even now St. Paul's, has girls in their programs. And at St. John's in Cambridge, they combine boys and girls into the same choir. So, and it's just a matter of time before Westminster Abbey and King's College do the same, in my opinion.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure, yeah.
You know, so there's a lot to be explored there, right? Not only the heritage of boy choirs in England that has expanded, fortunately, but also what it means for choirs and how hard. Yes, Jim? Oh, my mic just turned off. Thank you. But so there's a lot to explore there, I was saying, and not only about the heritage, but also about the difficulty and the importance at the same time of making this expansion possible. And St. Paul's is going through that right now. This is the first year, actually last year I think was the first year that they had a girl chorister program. This is the first year where the girls will be singing regularly at St. Paul's. And so I wanted to just ask you, Scott, why is that transition happening? Why is it so important beyond the obvious, which is offering the same to girls as to boys? There's something more going on in that expansion.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a moment first. Why is that important?
Well, I think inclusivity is definitely the most robust and important reason that these choirs are integrating girls. And in St. Paul's case, which is one of the things I'm actually most fond of, is that they're creating parity with the girls. It's not just a combination of things. It's now the girls will sing matins when boys sing evensong, and the next day when boys sing matins, girls will sing evensong. So they have the same workload. It's part of the problem, and as I've mentioned, one of the values of the programs over in England are the repetition and the vast amount of singing they do together. If you cut that in half by taking another choir and giving another choir half of that, that changes the nature of what they do. So a place like St. Paul's has enough activity where they could sing five sung services a day and people would still attend them because that place is very popular. So they've actually done that, and I think that's actually very, very helpful for them. But other places, they have shared things, and I think inclusivity is so important. But we all have to recognize that boys are aging, their evolution is kicking in for boy choristers, and their voices are changing earlier and earlier. There was a study done I want to say 10, 15 years ago that says we're losing a half of year of a boy's voice every, I think it's 25 years. So if 100 years from now, we'll have lost 2 years of the boy's voice, which means their voices will change at age 13 instead of 15. Those of you that may have been in the program here even at Christ Church in the 50s and 60s, you could sing all the way through high school as a treble because your voice didn't change until you were a junior in high school. The days that I have an 8th grader in the program are really strange because their voices, they've moved to the back row, usually, because evolution has just kicked in. So there's a little bit of preservation going on in the acceptance of girls into the program, but I think that is a very secondary reason, and it is because boys are still succeeding, and the boys' instrument is still a value, and there is a difference between the nature of a boy choir and the nature of a girls' choir. They do have lots of similarities. The vocal mechanism is the same. The way you teach people how to sing is the same. But the community responds differently to direction. When I work with boys, it's different than when I work with girls. Not vocally, but just not emotionally, because that's too surface. It's more about the way you build the community. It's different based on who's in front of me. And part of that has to do with age. Girls are typically older, right? Because their voices don't really change as drastically. Girls' voices do change, by the way, but they don't as drastically as boys. And so I often can have high school-aged girls in the choir, and so they're in a different place than a 7-8-year-old boy, right?
They're in a different place than a 15 or 16-year-old.
Yes, that's true. Heck, an 8-year-old girl is in a different place than an 8-year-old boy too. So there is that consideration. However, there are places where you can bring that together, and then the program here is, as you know, combined. And that's one of the rich aspects of what we do, is that the community is so supportive of each other that I think boys feel comfortable being in the situation with primarily girls, and girls, they love the idea of having boys in the program. It's a wonderful collaboration, which I think the best programs in England are succeeding in that way because of that community building. It's not a competitive thing. It is instead a realizing that we have something to share in our own way, and we can bring that together to serve the common good.
However, as a listener, there is an audible difference.
There is an audible difference.
Audible,
Yep.
complete male choir.
Correct.
And a complete female choir.
That's true.
Actually learned last night.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably worthwhile completing parallel as well as combined program, is it not?
Indeed, yeah. In the communities like this, it's hard to find boys to sing. That's always the trick. But we have them, and I'm excited to say we have even a couple that are training in the program now. So it's not gone, and nor will we have to rip from the lifeless fingers of your assistant organist and me to not have boys in the program. So we definitely work hard for that. I will say that it's not an obvious step for a Grosse Pointe boy to join a choir, as we know, even in the civic system, much less the sacred one.
We all grew up in segregated schools, and I think that probably is why you're finding
Yeah,
a shortage of segregated singers.
right? Maybe. Yeah. There's obviously a lot of conversation can go around that, I think. But yes.
Going up what you said, how are there still choir schools in England? Are they
A
falling
couple,
away
yeah,
like
I would
they do
say
in the United States, or are they?
most of them, all but one, are day schools.
Okay.
So
which
there's
ones?
only one boarding school left in the world. It's at Westminster Abbey.
Okay.
So I would say St. Thomas, but it's a little bit, it is a boarding school still, and St. Thomas in New York.
Right.
But it's going through transition, as probably most of you have heard. And it is still a boarding school for boys, so I guess technically it is there are two left, but it's not really the school anymore.
There's only one left in England.
Only one boarding school left in England. It's not boarding. It's a day school.
What about
Yeah.
the piano boys choir in Oslo?
It's not, I don't think it's boarding.
It's not boarding.
No.
Okay.
And it's not associated with the church. I should
No, I
say,
know that. I
yeah,
know.
so I should be very careful. It is the only boarding school in a church institution.
Exactly. Yeah.
There used to be Montserrat in Spain, was
Okay.
also one, but it's no longer. It used to be Westminster Cathedral in London, which is no longer a boarding school, that is. Most of these places, most of the English cathedrals have a school associated with them.
Okay.
But most of them also now have brought in day students that are not associated with the choir, which also becomes its own problem. This is the way of St. Albans at the National Cathedral. St. Albans School started as a school for the boy choristers of the cathedral. Had trouble financially, recruitment-wise, opened and expanded. Now there's not even they're talking about disbanding the boy choir at the National Cathedral. So if they haven't already, because there's just not enough interest, and of course St. Albans is doing just fine. So, yes, Mary.
Scott, I had one daughter who went up to the program, and we always travel with her. When she did 3 trips abroad. The choir is such a part of our life here that is sometimes easy to forget how truly unique and precious the opportunity is. And I know for Lizzie, when she was visiting schools and making that transition to college life, she was looking very much for a music program that she could participate in, but not as a music major. And she found it was eye-opening for many people she talked to when she would talk about this program, that it even existed.
Mm-hmm.
That he was just floored at the repertoire that they sang, the discipline, and the opportunity and the place that she was able to sing and travel to. That for many of those music professionals, they were just floored that the program even existed. And it was a way for her to connect with them, and it opened up some doors for her from that unique perspective.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say, in light of that, I'm really thrilled to hear Drew touch upon the fact that we want to continue to expand these types of opportunities even for non-choristers, for other ministries and things here. We had the unique perspective of a child, we had twins. One was in the choir program, one who wasn't. traveled with the choir, she was like the #1 bag holder in all the trips. She would everybody's purses. But to give other youth the opportunity to experience that type of camaraderie and unique travel and unique perspective, all of those things, because of all the things that Drew said.
Thank you.
The growth
Yeah.
of your kid in those travels is incredible, if you've ever seen it. Lizzie's first trip, she was in 8th grade, 9th grade, I don't know. Anyway, she headed over to England with the choir. She was gone for a week, 10 days or so. We went over and joined the choir at the end of the trip, and then took the girls on to more travel. I put her on the bus as a very scared young teenager. I was a scared parent to see her go. I saw her 9 or 10 days later in the lobby of the hotel, was expecting them, Mom, you're here, yeah, whatever. I got high. And that's it. It was
I know that experience.
amazing
Yeah.
how much she matured and the self-confidence and things she gained. I think that's true of all of us.
Yeah. I would say, and thank you for sharing that. Actually, the testimonials of our parents and Julie as well, and others that have, is actually, that is a story it's hard for me to tell from my position here. But I am also a parent too, but I mean, my kids go with me because they have to. I like to think that's enriching. But I like to say this, and I think it's really important that I continue to say this. What we do here is just not ordinary. It is extraordinary. And we are reminded of that when we go to England and we go to Europe in general, that the choirs that even run through there are not the same as us. We are often reminded by clergy and vergers and even the community that attends the services of other choirs and their own choir, that what is happening in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And it's really special what's happening here. And that's because of the commitment of this community, it's the commitment of the clergy and staff and the vestry. And it is something that is truly, truly not experienced very often, certainly by our colleagues outside of this country, but also even within this country. So thank you for that. I mean, it's something that I'm excited to be a steward of, but also that's something I'm very proud of, and something that I would love to continue for years and years and years and decades and decades. So, and to hear testimonials of those kids who understood that later on is amazing. I can't tell you how many college kids come back to me and say, "What did you do to me? I can't join choirs anymore." I'm like, well, there is that. So, but imagine how much that choir will be impressed, and how much enrichment they will receive from you being a member of that. So help them grow. Now you have to pay it forward. And yeah, but we do one concert every fall. That's it. We've been working on Stanford Beati for 4 weeks. I'm like, yeah, that's tough when we only do it for 10 minutes. So, yes.
Actually, that was one of the funny things that, just a testimony to the program and the amount of education the kids get. When I think for some of them, they go off and they sing another organization, and then there was a story one Dora shared. You sing different pieces every Sunday. Your repertoire is
Right.
huge.
Yeah.
So she goes and sings in a college choir, and they have one performance in the semester. They're working on the same thing for 12 weeks. And she looks around her fellow, she said, "How do you not know this music?"
What's taking you so long?
For weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Our crew has to learn it like that.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing.
Yeah. And singing together for a choir trip and singing every single day together makes it even more. And it's the choir at the end of a 2-week tour is an entirely different organism in a wonderful way. I mean, I can do anything with them musically. It's truly, truly extraordinary. It's their psalm singing becomes just natural. And they're like, "Oh, we're going to do a new piece today." Okay, whatever. Just give it to us. So, yeah.
Sometimes you can tell a former chorister by if they're singing along or mouthing the words.
Yes, right.
They're in the anthem.
Like today.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do that.
Lots of former choristers mouthing along today to Greater Love. Definitely.
I noticed it.
Having been a chorister in school, I came back to the chorale with you, Scott, after 70 years. And I've really enjoyed it. It's a
Yeah.
lot of fun, I think.
I think so. Thank you. Thank you.
Even as an adult to sing.
Yeah.
And I think you're giving that gift to a lot of children in the church, and it's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell your friends, right? So 2 things to go home with. Join us in 2027 and tell your friends about this program so that we have kids that just line up outside the door. Thank you. Amen to that. Thank you. Thank you, Drew.
Make sure your